Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. So our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we have a very delightful topic in front of us. That's the divine madness of the gopis of Vrindavan. So we'll begin with a few prayers. Gora graganya gana gocha goloruharam Goranga gudatama gopyata kolpa briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Narayanam Namaskrityam Nadam Shravanarotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Vedi Ramayane Shaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adhavante Chamadye Chahari Sarvatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Bachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Himadaba Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandavela Padikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Dharma Projita Kaita Vota Paramoni Matsanam Satam Vedyam Vastava Matta Vasta Shivadam Tapa Trion Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Kute Kimba Padayishvara Sadyo Hridyavarujyate Chikati Bishu Shushu Bistakshanat Nigama Pataro Galitam Phalam Shukamukadamitra Drabasam Yutam Pivata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Mohuraho Rasika Bhuvi Babuka Anarto Pasamam Sakshad Bhakti Yogam Adhoksaje Lokasha Janato Vidvams Chakri Satvata Samhitam Yasham Vaishuyamanayam Krishna Paramapurushe Bhakti Upudyape Pumsha Shoka Moha Bhayapaha Srimad Bhagavatam Paranamamalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsamekam Amalam Gyanam Padam Giyate Tatra Gyana Vairagya Bhakti Sahitam Naiskamyam Aviskritam Tachtrinvan Supatin Vicharana Pado Bhaktya Vimuchen Naraha Arto Yam Brahma Sutranam Bhadatarta Vinirnaya Gayatri Bashurupo So Vedakta Paribrimta Sarva Vedeti Hasanam Sadam Sadam Samudritam Sarva Vedanta Sadam Hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Mita Tipta Shanam Yatya Sadvachi Kuchit Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Mathura Meets Vrindavan, and this is from the 14th chapter, which is entitled The Faults of Krishna. This is a continuation of our discussion about the meeting in Kurukshetra. And overall, we're speaking right now about the 47th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Bhramara-gita. And our revered spiritual master, Srimad Govinda Maharaj, has discussed this in such a wonderful way. I wanted to mostly read some excerpts from this, but also some other thoughts we'd like to share with you. So I'm starting about halfway through this chapter. And Govinda Maharaj says, "It is not an easy affair to understand the activities of Krishna. He's inconceivable. A buddha jeev, a conditioned soul, has 4 defects: Brahma, the tendency to commit mistakes; Pramada, the tendency to be illusion; Vipralipsa, the tendency to cheat; and Karnapatava, imperfect senses. Karnapatava means the senses are defective. The mind is the chief of the senses, but it is defective. How can one conceive of Krishna's inconceivable pastimes?" So he goes on a little later. "This tattva is only revealed for one who has implicit faith in bhakti and who has equal devotion to Guru and Krishna. Otherwise, no one can understand tattva vichar. Krishna is merciful. He is Suridam, our well-wishing friend. He never does any evil or bad to anyone. But we buddha jivas, conditioned souls, cannot understand Krishna's activities because we are covered over by ignorance. Ignorant fools find fault in the activities of Krishna." If I'm using a kind of new system today, so if you can't hear me properly, please make a note, something, let me know. But since nobody has, I presume you can hear okay. Krishna's activities are described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. They are very difficult to understand. Still, I will tell you if you can understand it. After going to Mathura, Krishna sent his very intimate friend Uddhava to Braj Bhumi as a messenger, carrying the message of love known as Uddhava Sandesh. "Uddhava, you go to Braj Bhumi and deliver this message to them. They are feeling very distressed. They are only surviving because I've told them that I would come back, otherwise they would have died. Go." Day by day, the gopis were feeling acute pangs of separation from Krishna. They had given up sleeping, eating, everything. They were no longer putting on ornaments or nice saris, nor were they taking care of their hair, which had become all scattered. They had become very skinny and were lying in the dust on the ground, feeling intense pangs of separation. Their hearts were burning, burning, burning in the heat of viraha, separation. Pagala Unmada. Radharani had become mad. Nobody could understand what she was saying. This is Chitra Jalpa, the delirium of a mad person. So, today we want to speak a little something about this divine madness, or Divyonmada, which is a main topic of this Bhramara-gita, and is very intimately connected with the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Krishna's promises in Gita, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham, that just as someone approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. So when Radharani and the gopis become mad for Krishna, Krishna also becomes mad. And that madness is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we study psychiatry, a great psychiatrist may try to understand the divine madness of a devotee, but they can't distinguish between that state and the conditioned state of a patient who has some mental illness. Divine madness is an extreme form of mystical experience. It's a final and definitive state sought by mystical saints of all different types of faiths who want to unite with the Supreme Lord. There are discussions about divine saints in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and Eastern Orthodox, Western Christianity, amongst the Hasidic Jews, amongst the Sufi saints, amongst the Shaktas, the Shaivites. Psychiatry defines madness or psychosis as a grossly inaccurate sense of reality. But which sense of reality? Srila Prabhupada said, who was really mad? If someone accepts, some people that they consider that this world is an illusion, it's Maya, and the divine thing is reality, so in that sense then all of those people are mad. But the great saints, they rise above the collective madness of mundane culture and the society they live in. They live internally in a spiritual trance, filled with a divine vision of the world. In Tamil Nadu, there's the Alwars, who displayed different extreme states of divine madness. The Nayanars, there was one devotee named Kanapa Nayanar. He used to carry flowers in his hair and water in his mouth that he would carry to worship the Vayu Shivalingam at Kalahasti. And one of the eyes in that lingam one day started bleeding, so Kanapa took out his own eye and put it on the lingam. And then, seeing that the lingam's other eye was also bleeding now, then he put his foot on that eye to feel the location so he could pluck out his other eye. And he was about to do that when Lord Shiva appeared before Kanapa and embraced him. So certainly to an external person, Kanapa seems like he's completely mad. But Shivji recognized he had this divine madness. In Tamil language, the word Alwar means someone who's immersed in God. So the Alwars, they were recognized as saints by their madness. And such persons who are mad with love of God, they run, they jump, they cry, they laugh, they sing, they dance, they roll on the ground in ecstasy. In Maharashtra, there was a great Saint Tukaram, and he declared that the first sign that someone who had vision of God was they would become mad. And he described the ideal devotee as being someone who's mad in the eyes of the world. And he described himself as being drunk with God realization. In Latin, the word fanaticus, it's a derivative of the word funum, which means temple, or means something related to a temple. Later, the word, from this fanaticus came the word fanatic, which means someone who's frenzied, frantic, or mad. That the first meaning someone who's frenzied and mad is now a little obsolete. But now it means someone who's excessively enthusiastic about religious affairs. So that comes from the sense of someone relating to a temple. And now it comes to, there's also the word which comes from that, which is fan. Someone is an enthusiastic person. I'm a fan of a baseball team or this or that. So this is a kind of real madness. And Prabhupada writes in a purport in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, the word dharmadena can be analyzed in this way. Dhura means dushta or sinful, mada means madness. Every living entity who is in contact with material nature is called mada, or mad. And then he quotes a verse from the Prema Vivarta. Pisachi prahile jena mati chana hoya maya grashta jive hoy se bhava udoya. And Prabhupada writes, when a person is haunted, he becomes practically insane. When one is in an insane condition, he speaks all kinds of nonsense. Thus, to become engaged in sense gratification, one has to accept a friend who's dharmada, or badly affected by the material disease. So, if we want to engage in sense gratification, you have to accept someone who's dharmada, or badly affected by material disease. And if you want to become engaged in divine reality, we have to accept someone who has this dibyonmada, this divine madness. So the saints and devotees, they don't fit in with this world. There's a beautiful poem. It's a poetic translation of a song by Nam Alwar, one of my favorite poems, which was translated by A.K. Ramanujan in his book, Hymns for the Drowning. He describes the nature of a devotee. Mumbling and prattling the many names, while onlookers say they're crazy. Entering and not entering cities, Standing still or swaying before a laughing world, they dance, they leap, undone by feeling, and the gods bow down before them. So this is the nature of devotees. They're always chanting the holy names, and people think, what are they doing? Huh? Are they talking to themselves, mumbling and prattling the many names, while onlookers say they're crazy, entering and not entering cities? The devotees, they're not really part of things. They're part of it, but they're not part of it. Standing still or swaying before a laughing world, they dance, they leap, undone by feeling, and the gods bow down before them. As Radhanath Maharaj has exemplified, I think, very nicely, we should learn the art of living alone in the crowd. I saw this also with our Gour Maharaj. Like Lord Rishabdev, it's described in the Bhagavatam, there were many, many followers with him. But he didn't pay much attention to those people. He didn't know who they were. Similarly, Jad Bharat appeared to be a madman and only revealed his position to Maharaj Rahugana out of kindness. So this is the madness of the saints. And today we're trying to understand something about this divine madness of the gopis of Vrindavan. Don't look at it in a mundane way and think that, they've become crazy. Or some people even, they think, better that you don't become a devotee of Krishna because you may go mad. So I'd like to continue our reading something. Gaur Govinda Maharaj says, feeling intense pangs of separation, the gopis were moving here and there in the forest of Vrindavan like mad women, asking every tree and creeper, have you seen Shyam? Have you seen Krishna? Is he coming? Then they saw someone coming through the jungle path that looked exactly like Krishna. One gopi said, Saki ini ke go? Who is he? He looks like Krishna. Oh, dear girl companion, it looks like Krishna, but there's no peacock feather and no flute. So he's not Krishna. Uddhava looks exactly like Krishna. He's the same age and has the same blackish body. Everything is the same, only he has no flute and no peacock feather. Seeing Uddhava coming nearer and nearer, they could understand. Oh, you've come from Mathurapati, Yadupati. Here Gour Maharaj is paraphrasing this chapter, some of the verses of the 47th chapter, 10th canto. And he says, Krishna had become the leader of the Yadus of Mathura. And therefore the gopis referred to Krishna by those names. The gopis used those names because they felt Krishna cheated us. Here the gopis accused Krishna of cheating them because he'd left Vrindavan and the Brajbasis to go to Mathura to be with the members of the Yadu dynasty. To emphasize this, they chose to call him Mathurapati and Yadupati, Lord of Mathura and Lord of the Yadu dynasty. And they said, oh, you've come as a duta, a message from him? Messenger from him? Huh? Oh, you black fellows, you're all unreliable persons. So this is a Dibyonmada of Srimati Radharani and the Gopikas of Vrindavan. Their words are full of chitra jalpa or mad talks. And how can we understand them? Everywhere in the world, people worship God in temples and churches and mosques as being the supreme controller, the supreme person. But the gopis of Vrindavan, they're criticizing Krishna. We should understand this in a very deep way. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he quotes a verse from the Vishnu Yamala. Mohas Chandra Brahmo Ruksha Rasata Kama Olbana Lolata Mada Matsarye Hingsa Keda Parishamo Asatyam Kroda Akanksha Ashanka Vishvavibhrama Vishmatvam Parapeksha Dosha Ashto Dasotita. It speaks about 18 faults, these Vishnu Yamala. And these 18 faults are what are found in a conditioned soul. Moha, meaning madness, is the first of these different faults. Then there's Tandra, exhaustion, sleep, or laziness. There's Brahma, which means to make some mistakes, to be confused. There's Ruksha, Rasata, rough being cruel and having exploitive dealings. Kama albana, intense terrible lust. Lolata, restlessness and fickleness. Mada, which means intoxication or pride or arrogance. Matsarja, which means envy or jealousy. Hingsa, which means violence. Keda, Keda means sorrow or distress or depression. Parishram, Parishram means when someone becomes very, very tired and fatigued. Asatya means they don't tell the truth, they're lying. Krodha is anger. Akanksha means hunger or hankering, wanting something. Ashanka means doubt or worry. Vishvavibrama means universal folly or absorption in worldly affairs. Visvatma means to be partial or prejudiced. And Parapeksha means to be dependent on others. So these 18 faults are found in a conditioned soul. And Rupa Goswami describes that paradoxically, Krishna has 16 of these 18 faults. But it's these 16 faults of Krishna that make him superior to God or to Lord Narayan. Krishna has all 18 faults except for 2. He doesn't have ruksha rashata. He doesn't have exploitive, harsh, rough dealings. Nor does he have kama obana. Kama obana means very intense, terrible lust. Krishna doesn't have those 2, but he has his other 16 qualities, and paradoxically it's these so-called faults which make him superior to Lord Narayan. But we should be very careful, as our Guru Maharaj is saying, we should understand that Krishna's, we can't understand, and the only way to understand Krishna is by the mercy of the devotees. So the gopis, they're criticizing Krishna. But don't think that we can imitate that, or don't think that Krishna is actually having faults. This is the nature of the gopis' dibyonmada, their divine madness, that they're speaking this kind of chitra jalpa, which is described in this 47th chapter of the 10th canto. So the gopis, Radharani is thinking, oh, you're a duta, a messenger from that Krishna. All you black fellows are all unreliable persons. Then Uddhava went with the gopis to Radharani. Radharani was lying unconscious. Sometimes she was unconscious and sometimes waking. She had become mad due to her acute pangs of separation from Krishna. When Radharani saw Krishna's intimate friend Uddhava, great anger arose in her heart. And outside, she began speaking like a mad person in delirium. This speech is known as Chitra Jalpa, imaginative mad talks. Rupa Goswami has described all of this in Ujjvala Nilamani. So I didn't want to go so much in depth in all this Chitra Jalpa. I felt that it's not required for our subject matter of meeting in Mathura, meeting in Kurukshetra, although it is very, very relevant. The details are not so much relevant. We should know something about it in general. And I thought a nice way to see that is just by reading from Mathura Meets Vrindavan. So we'll continue. By some strange coincidence, exactly at that moment, a black bumblebee came humming and moving around Radharani's face, feet, and palms, which are all like lotus flowers. Radharani said, "Hey, black bee, get out of here. You black people are unreliable. Why have you come here? I can understand you have come as a messenger from your Krishna. O Madhupa, O black bumblebee, you are the friend of that Sham, who is Kitaba, Kapata, a great duplicitous person. Yes, you make a very nice pair, the two of you. You are Madhupa, and he is Madhupati. Madhu means honey. So Madhupa means bumblebee, or one who sucks honey. Mathura is also known as Madhupuri, as it was formerly the home of the demon named Madhu. So Madhupati means Lord of Mathura, Krishna. He is black, and you are also black. He is duplicitous, and you are his duplicitous friend. Great duplicitousness. He is a crushed jewel of duplicitous persons, and you are just his messenger friend. Hey, Don't touch my feet. Get out from here. These are the words of Radharani. Uddhava was standing nearby, and Radharani was speaking to the Bhramara, the bumblebee. Get out of here, you rascal black bee. You are drunk, so I will not allow you to touch my feet. If you would have come here without being drunk, then I would have allowed you to touch my feet, but now I will not allow you to touch. If you say, no, I'm not drunk, I have not drunk liquor, then I will say, definitely you are drunk. I'll give you proof. You have come from that Shama Sundar. You are drunk and your head is reeling. Why has your mustache become yellow? Is it a kumkum kiss? Have you put kumkum powder on your mustache? Uddhava realized, oh, Radharani is speaking to me and just indicating the bumblebee. Radharani then said, where did you get the kumkum on your mustache? Krishna is now enjoying the ladies of Mathura. They put kumkum on their breasts, and you've gotten it from them. You are his friend and have come here. Get out from here, Bhramara. Bhramara means bee. Don't come to me. Gour Maharaj continues. Here in Radharani's words, you will find irsa, enviousness, pride, great anger, as well as dibyonmada, transcendental madness. Radharani says many things. They're all technically known as prajalpa. I'm just pointing out how very difficult it is to understand the activities of Krishna. No one can understand but apara vichar, apparent consideration. It is a question of tattva vichar, absolute consideration. Only one who knows tattva can understand. Radharani said, your master or friend is not a good man at all. O Bhramara bumblebee, don't talk about friendship with this sham. He is a very unreliable person. He is a duplicitous black person. He is very crooked and cruel. He has no mercy, no softness. Your master, your friend Sham, is a dharmika, an irreligious person. If you want proof, I'll give you proof. In Treta Yuga, Radharani now, in her Dibyon matter, in her madness, she's criticizing Krishna. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Sarita Darshani, one of his purports to this, he says that sometimes in the Sanskrit, which Gour Maharaj is paraphrasing some of the verses here, sometimes in the Sanskrit there's some mistakes, but that's the nature of Dibyon Mada. In madness they can't speak very properly. So Radharani is speaking, she's saying that Krishna is a dharmika, he's an irreligious person. And oh, bumblebee, you want some proof? I'll give you proof. And she starts giving some proof of how Krishna is an adharmic person. Very interesting example she gives. She says, in Treta Yuga, your Sham, who had come as Lord Ram, the son of Dasarath, was banished to the forest. He killed a monkey whose name was Bali. Ram didn't come face to face with Bali. He kept himself hidden and killed him. Is that very nice? Mercilessly, he killed that monkey. Sometimes very low-born hunters kill monkeys. Generally, however, no one will kill a monkey because no one will eat the flesh of a monkey. Why should it be killed? But your friend, your master, killed Bali mercilessly. Is that very nice? He is a merciless person. And he quoted a verse, 17th verse from this 47th chapter of the 10th canto. Megaya eva kipindram vivade lubda dharma Shriyam akrita virupam srijita kamayanam Balim api balam atat vesadyadam shadyadvas Tat alam asita sakyaya dusya jesta kartata. Like a hunter, he cruelly shot the king of the monkeys with arrows because a woman conquered him. And because a woman conquered him, he disfigured another woman who came to him with lusty desires. And even after consuming the gifts of Bali Maharaj, he bound him up with ropes as if he were a crow. So let us give up all friendship with this dark-complexioned boy, even if we can't give up talking about him. Radharani said, Another instance is there also. When he came as Ram, he cut off the nose and ears of Suparnika, the sister of Ravan. When Suparnika saw the beautiful form of Lord Ram, she became enchanted and attracted. Being a woman, she thought, I'll marry him. That's a woman's nature. But what did your master do? He didn't marry her. Rather, he cut off her nose and ears. He made her look so ugly that no one would marry her. Is that very nice? He's such a merciless person. He may not have married her, but someone else might have married her. So why cut off her nose and ears, thereby making her so ugly that no one would want to marry her? What sort of activity is that? All right, Bumblebee, we can discuss this. Yes, you say that he was a tapasvi brahmachari wandering in the forest. A brahmachari cannot marry. But if he was not a brahmachari, his wife Sita was with him. How is it that he was so merciless to Surpanaka? Elsewhere, our Gour Maharaja explained that actually Lord Ramachandra was really being merciful. In the Bengali edition of the Ramayana, composed by the sage Kritibas, he speaks about this pastime, and he says that actually the entire dynasty of Ravan was destroyed because of one woman. And which woman was that? You may say that it was Sita. He said, no, it was because of Suparnika. And because Suparnika, she was not a chaste lady. Previously, her husband had been killed by Lord Ramachandra. Suparnika, before her husband was killed, she came and she had some lusty desires for Lord Ram. And then Lord Ramachandra told Lakshmana, you cut off her nose and ears, because Suparnika wanted to attack Sita. And then later when Suparnika came to Ravan and told him what had happened, then he sent Karandushan and 10,000 Rakshasas to fight with Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra was there with Lakshman, with Sita. And when all those warriors came, Lakshman was very happy because he was bored being in the forest. He thought, now finally I get to have a good fight. And then Lord Ramachandra turned to him and said, Lakshman, I want you to take Sita to a cave and stay there with her and protect her. And I'll take care of this by myself. So Lakshman was very disappointed, but he followed the orders of Lord Ram. And then by himself, Lord Ramachandra killed those 10,000 Rakshasas. It's interesting to note that later Hanuman killed 80,000 Rakshasas. Lord Ramachandra had a bow, but according to the Valmiki Ramayana, Hanuman just took a tree trunk in his bare hands and killed 80,000 Rakshasas when he went to Lanka. So in this way, sometimes the Lord arranges that the devotee does more. And then Suparnika came back to Ravan, and Ravan, seeing that she'd been disfigured like this, he told her that anyway, you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. And because of that instruction, he says that the whole dynasty of Ravan was destroyed because he allowed this one woman to have some independence. Our Gour Maharaja comments on this in another lecture. He says that actually Lord Ramachandra was being merciful to Suparnika. And he gives an explanation which is also found in the Garga Samhita, that after Lord Ramachandra disfigured her, Suparnika suffered for tens of thousands of years, and she cried and cried, but she was always thinking of Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra couldn't marry Suparnika in that incarnation because he'd made a vow, Ekopatni Brata, that I'll only accept one wife. He'd accepted Sita. So he couldn't marry her. And he cut off her nose and ears so that no one else would marry her. But Suparnika couldn't stop thinking of Lord Ramachandra, and she was so absorbed in thinking about him, she took birth again finally in Dwapar Yuga in Mathura as a hunchback woman known as Kubja. And in that birth, her desires were fulfilled. So our Gour Maharaja goes on to speak about the words of Radharani to Uddhava, or to that bumblebee. And your master came as the son of Kashyapa Vamandev. He was a nice brahmanchari. What fault was there with Bali Maharaj? Bali Maharaj offered him worship. He washed his feet and gave him a nice seat. He treated him so nicely. Vamana had very little feet. He only begged 3 pieces of land, and Bali Maharaj promised to give it to him. But this dwarf Vamanadev, with his tiny little feet, was actually a great juggler. When Bali Maharaj gave 1 piece of land, his feet became so inconceivably, unimaginably great that with 1 step, his foot covered the whole surface of the globe. Then with the other foot, he covered all space. He's such a great juggler. It's impossible that something small can be inside of something big. How is it that such a big, inconceivable thing is there within a small thing? His feet were so tiny, how did they become so great? As mere jivas, we cannot conceive it. It is only jugglery, nothing else. Your master is such a great juggler. Then your master asked Bali for space for a 3rd step. Chittiyam upakalpaya. Where shall I place my 3rd step? Bali Maharaj thought, where can he put his 3rd step? He covered everything with 2 steps. Then Radharani said, a person is walking along carrying a pot on his head filled with food. A crow comes, takes some food from the pot, and not being satisfied, at the same time pecks him with his beak on the head of that person. Your master, Vamana, did just like that. Bali gave everything to Vamana. He treated him nicely, offered respect to him, worshipped him, and what did Vamanadev do? Babanda Varuna Pasar. He bound Bali up with the ropes belonging to Varuna. Such a small dwarf became so great. Bali is a Mahajan, a nice man, a sober person, a gentleman. Bali said, all right, I've given everything, but I've not completely dedicated myself. Then putting his head forward, he said, please put your 3rd foot here on my head. He became completely surrendered. But what did your friend do? He treated Bali mercilessly. He pushed him down to Patala. What was Bali's fault? Why did he treat him so mercilessly? Radharani said, do you understand why he is this way, you bumblebee? It's a question of the sham, black color, nothing else. All black-colored people do this. Vamana was black-colored, Ram was black-colored, and your friend is black-colored. That black color is very enchanting. Everyone is enchanted with it. But such black-colored persons do nasty, merciless, duplicitous, cruel things. This is the fault with that black color. Then the Bhramara, the bee, was humming. Why are you saying bad things about my friend, my master, saying he has so many faults? Huh? Why am I finding fault with your master? I'll tell you why. A nice, sober person, a gentleman, only speaks good things. He never speaks bad things. So if you don't want to hear, then get out of here. Why are you just hovering around and not going away? All right, I'll tell you. Your friend and master, Sham, has already given us up. We had an intimate relationship with him. But he's broken that relationship and gone away. He's not kept up his word. He's given up friendship with us, and we have given up friendship with him. Radha said, but still, we cannot give up his kata. Dusyadas tat katarita. He told us, I'll come back. Only by remembering this kata, these words, are we surviving. His kata is so enchanting. His kata is so attractive. His kata is so sweet and nectarian that we cannot give it up. He's acting in such a way that we would have died. But we cannot die because we're remembering his words. Such is our condition. We're neither dying nor surviving. He is such a nirdaya, merciless, cruel person. Radharani went on. And Treta Yuga, Suparnika could not marry anyone because Ram cut off her nose and ears. She became so ugly, no one would marry her. And in Dwapara Yuga, she became Kubja. And finally Krishna came and touched her and she became so beautiful. That means that Krishna wanted to marry her. By these examples, you can understand how cruel your friend is. And Gour Maharaj goes on to explain something about Radharani's words. He says, this is all apara vichar, apparent consideration. But in tattva vichar, two considerations there. Apara means the apparent consideration, and tattva vichar means the absolute consideration. He says, but in tattva vichar, you will find that actually Krishna is very merciful. Krishna fulfilled the desire of Suparnika. Suparnika wanted to marry Lord Ram, but in that incarnation he couldn't do so. Lord Ram is Maryada Purushottam, the topmost personification of Vedic propriety. Ekapatni Brata, he'd taken a vow to accept only one wife. But in Dwarpar Yuga, Bahuvalava, Krishna accepted many wives. Krishna fulfilled the desire of Suparnika as Kubja. Krishna came, touched her, and she became a beautiful lady. Thereby he fulfilled her desire and became her husband. This is mercifulness. There's no question of cruelty, but apparently it seems to be cruelty. Radharani is saying this, but it is allegorical. Inside there's so much anger, so she's speaking in this way, but actually she has such intimate, deep love for Krishna. This kind of talk is known as Chitra Jalpa. If you discuss in terms of aparavichar, there is enormous cruelty in killing Bali. When Bali was killed, his wife Tara came and called Lord Ram bad names. She asked many questions, and Lord Ram gave appropriate answers. Lord Ram said, Bali's younger brother was Sugriv. Bali forcibly kept Sugriv's wife. Thereby Bali acted immorally and committed a great sin. Sugriv is Ram's friend, so Sugriv's enemies are Ram's enemies. Lord Ram said, such a stupid, rascal, sinful, immoral person should be killed. That is good for him. Otherwise he may continue such immoral activities. Better to kill him and stop the nonsense. Vali had received the boon that no one could kill him in a face-to-face fight. So Ram kept himself hidden behind a tree and killed him. Ram is not merciless. He did good for all. He did good for Vali, Karuna. Then, regarding Lord Vamanadev, when Bali Maharaj completely dedicated himself to the lotus feet of Vamanadev and offered his head, as a place for Vamanadev to place his third step, he thereby became a Mahajan. He set the example of complete surrender, Atma Nivedan. Although Lord Vaman pushed Bali down to Patala, he gave him all opulence. Actually, he didn't bind Bali. Rather, by his complete surrender, it was Bali who bound Lord Vamanadev with a rope of love. The Lord became his doorkeeper and stayed there. Vamana became bound up by the rope of love. So how are these merciless dealings? The Lord is so merciful. This is Tattva Vichar. There is also another point here. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the gopis, headed by Radharani, don't accept Krishna as Bhagavan. Due to the activity of Yoga Maya, no one in Braj Bhumi accepts Krishna as God. Vasudeva and Devaki accept Krishna as Bhagavan. They bow down before him and offer prayers, but Nanda and Yashoda don't do that. The cowherd boys climb on the shoulders of Krishna and say, Tumi ami saman. You and I are equal. Tumi keno bhara. How are you, great Krishna? You are sama, equal to us. The gopis also neither know nor treat Krishna like Bhagavan because of pure love. So why did Radharani speak about Krishna's previous incarnations? Our Gour Maharaj explains and gives a very wonderful example. When Radharani said in Purva Leela, his previous incarnations, your previous pastimes, your master or friend was Ram and Vamanadev, that means he's the Supreme Lord. That's contradictory. The gopis know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but then again, how is it that they don't know? They know and they don't know. How is this? Very difficult to understand. It is a very deep and confidential question. The question should be solved, otherwise it will cause confusion. The Acharyas have answered it. When the gopis and Radharani unite with Krishna, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. They forget everything. Otherwise, such union could not be possible. That is the activity of Yoga Maya. But when they feel very acute pangs of separation, this understanding sometimes comes up. Radharani described Krishna as being Ram and Vaman while she was feeling acute pangs of separation. The Acharyas have given the following example. If you place a big pot filled to the brim with milk on the fireplace, it will boil and overflow. To keep the milk from overflowing, one may place some tiny pieces of straw or grass in the milk before it boils. This is still a habit which goes on in the villages in India, in many places. When the milkman is bringing the milk, they put 2 pots on either side of their bicycle or maybe motorcycle today. And to keep the milk from coming out of the pot, traditionally they would put some straw on top of it. So some of that straw would end up in the milk. And Gour says, the straw goes under the foam of the boiling milk and it's not visible. However, when the milk is boiling, the straw goes up and down. Sometimes it becomes visible and sometimes it disappears. When the gopis with Radharani feel such acute pangs of separation, it's like heat. Their hearts are boiling, boiling, and burning. So sometimes this understanding comes up and it is expressed, hey Bhagavan, hey Ram, your friend was Ram. Your friend was Vamanadeva in another yuga. That means Lord Vishnu. When the milk is boiling, sometimes the straw comes up and then again it goes back down. If someone thinks, let me take the straw out, he can't catch it. Immediately goes back down. Only for one moment is it on top. No one can catch it. Sometimes the acute pangs of separation are like that. The heart is boiling, boiling, and burning, so this idea sometimes comes up, that Bhagavan. Otherwise it does not arise. This is what our acharyas have said. Sometimes the gopis say to Krishna, Nakalo gopika nandano bhavan akila dehina mantaratmadrik. You're not actually the son of the gopi Yashoda, O friend, but rather you're the indwelling witness in the hearts of all embodied souls. That's from Bhagavatam 10:31-4. So sometimes in Braj, this conception comes up. Sometimes it's said that the cowherd boys, when at the end of the day, when they go back to their homes and they see Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they tell them that, oh, Mother Yashoda, your Gopal, he killed a great demon today. And there were so many people who appeared in the sky. There was one fellow riding on an elephant with thousands of eyes. And there was another fellow riding on a swan with 4 heads. And there was another fellow with 5 heads riding on top of a bull, and he was naked. And they were all glorifying your Gopal, and they were saying that he's Bhagavan, that he's God. And sometimes when Mother Yashoda hears that, she understands something, that her Gopal is Bhagavan. And she says, oh, really? My Gopal is Bhagavan. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that nice? Mother Yashoda becomes charmed by that. It doesn't make her love weak. Whereas the love in Mathura and Dwarka, it said that Aishvarya Priti Sankuchita, the opulence there makes the love shrink. But in Braj, sometimes they have this conception, the gopis, or sometimes Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they have some conception that Krishna is Bhagavan. But it doesn't make their love weak, rather increases their love. And that understanding only comes, especially in separation. But then when Krishna comes again, and he comes and runs and jumps on the lap of Mother Yashoda, Mother Yashoda immediately forgets all about that Krishna is Bhagavan. And she embraces her Krishna, and she offers him her breast. Sometimes she sees Krishna is doing some rascal nonsense, and so she ties him up with a rope. She's not thinking that Krishna is Bhagavan. But sometimes that conception comes up. And here in this book, Mathura Meets Vrindavan, our revered spiritual master says, it said it's like straw in boiling milk. Sometimes you see the piece of straw come to the top, and then other times it disappears and goes down. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If anybody has any reflections they'd like to share, any realizations or thoughts you have from this talk today, you can share that online, or if you have any questions. And I want to thank Natalia for being here, and Naveen and Brinda Sundari. Hare Krishna, nice to see all of you online. Thank you for taking part in this, and Tejasvini Radhika and others who are here. Anybody else with any reflections? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and stop. Okay? Krishna Kuni had something? Let me just turn this microphone toward you.
I really like the Phanam temple and the origin of the word fanatic. That was really special for me. I also marked this point about Gurudev saying how in the Sanskrit of the gopis there are mistakes in their madness, because that's Chitra Japa. When you are crazy, you can't even speak properly. That was so beautiful. And also how Vamanadev didn't actually tie up Bali Maharaj. It was him who was tied up by the ropes of love of Bali Maharaj, so that he actually became his gatekeeper. And many times I was thinking about this cruelty of Krishna, or mercy of Krishna, because really it seems sometimes that he's dealing with us in a very heavy way, little heavy-handed. We experience it that way, but that's really because we don't see his final purpose in bringing us to him, and it's just very helpful to be reminded. Thank you.
Thank you. Krishna in the Gita, in the Bhagavatam, he says, Yashyaham anagrinami harishita dhanamshanai, that if I'm really kind to someone, I take everything away from them. So Krishna has taken everything away from the gopis. Not only everything, he's taken their minds away, he's taken their sanity away.
And all the senses.
And all their senses, he stole everything. So I think, that definition of the word fanatic, or the origin of the word fanatic, is very interesting. Someone who's a big fan, they're a fanatic. And it comes from this word, this Latin meaning of someone who spends a lot of time with the temple. So we don't want to be fanatics, we don't want to be fans. We want to understand Krishna and Tattva in a sober way and according to our position. So, a little something
but
about this.
But isn't that interesting, because fanatic is someone who spends a lot of time in the temple. That's a Kanishta Adhikari. He has faith in the temple. He doesn't have faith in Krishna being in his heart, in everybody else's heart.
Exactly. See, she's pointing out that fanatic means someone who spends a lot of time in the temple, which is the quality of a Kanishta Adhikari. He doesn't see and appreciate other devotees. Okay, and Brinda Sundari, she's offered a few comments about how Ram handled the situation with Suparnika. Interesting about the word fanatic. And she says that Ram fulfilled her desire while following Dharma. Much gratitude from our family. Thank you for the wonderful katha. So my thanks to everybody who took part. So we'll be back again next week on our Tuesday morning katha for Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Goprem Anandi Hari Hari Bol.